Women and girls make up 75% of all victims of human trafficking. That is 30.2 billion women and girls. 75% of these women are enslaved for sexual exploitation. So we're talking about 22 billion women and girls who are sexual slaves in this world today. Billion, thank you. Speaking of billion, close to 1 billion women alive today have been raped. 9 million adolescent girls were sexually assaulted in this past year. And that stat boils down to about 1 in 5 women have experienced sexual assault. And for our trans sisters, it's 1 in 2. 1 in 2 trans women have been sexually assaulted. And you know, in cases of rape, there are less than 1% convictions. Over 99% of rapists go without a single day in court or in jail. No punishment. We have a sexual predator in the White House. Every day you read about another leader who is being accused of being a sexual predator. Every 7 seconds, a girl under the age of 15 is married, which means there are 22 million girls under the age of 15 who are married right now. 1 in 4 adolescent girls deliberately harmed herself in the last year, most often by cutting herself or burning herself, and the number is rising. There are 20 million women and girls in the United States who suffer from eating disorders. Women are twice as likely to be suicidal than men. There are 1 in 5 women are going to experience depression in their lives, and only 1 in 4 of those women are going to seek treatment because there is so much shame. So this is the way the exterior culture handles women. And what happens is we start to internalize the exterior culture's point of view about us, which is that we do not matter. So why even report? We don't even register. Well, I did go on a date with him, so maybe it was my fault. I was wearing a short skirt at the bar. Maybe I invited that. So we don't know how to stand for ourselves. And I want to talk about my own journey for a moment. And the first thing you should know about me is when I was a little girl, I was very enthusiastic. My mom tells me that my favorite thing was that I would jump a lot of rope. That when I would jump rope, so she would tell me to go outside because she didn't want me to wake her up in the morning like her and my dad. And so I would just go outside and jump my rope and jump and wait for everybody to wake up. And I was so excited in the morning because it's so exciting to get a new day. And when I was about 5 years, and I remember what I would do. I'd wake up, and if the sun was, I would run to the window to see if the sun was up, and then I would get the jump rope and I'd go outside. And I can remember this time when I was 5, when I got up and I went to the window and I was like, I'm not enthusiastic anymore. What happened? Like I've lost my enthusiasm, and I'm only 5. And I had a download, because you can get downloads at 5, right? And my download was, There's something wrong with a world that would take the enthusiasm away from a 5-year-old child. And I have to figure out what it is because something is different about me. And I have to figure it out, not only for me, but for any other 5-year-old that is in this predicament. And so from that day forward, I started to journal, seriously. The first journals were pictures, but it was to remind me of stuff that I knew would be important one day. And it was around that time that the goddess would come and sit on my bed, like right there. And I would sit there and I could see her, but I could only see her in my periphery because when I would turn to look, she would vaporize. And I could feel this thing from her. She would sit there and I could feel like my whole insides melt like butterscotch. Like there were rays of sun. And it felt like so good and delicious and beguiling that I would want to see more because I could feel that she was so beautiful. But then whenever I would turn, she would be gone. And I thought, I gotta find her. There's something important, like, it wasn't even, I didn't live in that way. It was just like, I have to find her. Like I have to find her. Now, the thing I didn't mention is that from the time I was a baby, I had an older brother who was very violent with me and other family members, and so I would say from the time I was an infant until I was a teenager, I was beaten on a regular basis. And the thing is about that. Anyone else have violence, either in their past where there's violence? Like, you don't really register it as a problem because that's just kind of what happens in your house. So for me, it didn't live like, oh, well, I got beaten up today. I went unconscious today. Like, okay, well, whatever. It's just like, because, I know that there are stories that are way worse than mine, way more intense than mine. Way more profound than mine. Mine was vanilla violence. There is no such thing. Violence is violence. And the interesting thing was that I am the one that was left with the shame. That was my legacy. Like, I was the one that was beaten. But the shame was not my brother's. It was mine. I was the powerless one. And so what I decided to do was I thought, well, I have to find that goddess. And so when I was, and I knew she wasn't in the synagogues because I was Jewish. And I swear to you, there is no goddess in those joints. Like, they don't even have the stained glass. It's like so fucking plain, you cannot believe. And those Jews are serious. It's like, they told me it was like a religion for adults, not children. So I thought, well, I know. She's got to be, like my friend Susan Murphy, she had Easter and Christmas. And I thought she probably has the goddess too. Because that shit is pretty weird, nothing like that. So I had her take me to her church with her. And it was Easter when I went. And I thought, oh, we are going to be really in for it big time. Because they had the guy, the priest, and he was wearing down to the ground robes and with a big crown-like thing on his head. And he was swinging this chain purse that was smoking. And I thought, whoa, the goddess is going to be here any second. But there was none. It was Jesus, and he was not in good shape. They were celebrating the worst day of his life. Did not understand that. And so I was very influenced by a book called Harriet the Spy. And so I decided I will become Harriet the Spy, and I will spy at various religions, and I will be looking for the goddess. And I was really lucky because the Jews, they love to go to the Holy Land. Oh my God, my father, he loved himself the Holy Land. And so they took us, like when I was like 13, to the trip to the Holy Land. And I went to so many monuments, and I thought, for sure, I'm going to find her. Like, we went to this thing called the Dome of the Rock. It's like a big shiny gold thing, and there's carpets everywhere, and it smells like feet. No goddess in there. We went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. We went to the Gethsemane, we went to the Baha'i Shrine. I thought I was onto something at the Baha'i Shrine because there was rose petals everywhere. I thought, these people know nothing. They had nothing. So, so I kind of hung up my spy goggles, or maybe the spy glasses, maybe my trench coat. I hung up the trench for a few years, but I never really put down the task. And a number of years later, I found her. I was relentless in my search, and I found her. And I was wondering if you wanted to know how I did that. Because she was in the most unexpected place. Seriously, the last place I ever would have looked in my lifetime. But in order to connect with my enthusiasm, I wanted to feel my joy again. I remembered it. And I wanted to feel that feeling of enthusiasm and joy and aliveness and freedom. Can you remember that when you were a little outrageous person? And you were like the queen of the earth and the universe and beyond. And no did not mean no to you. No was an invitation to play. And you felt radiant no matter what you were doing. You felt like hot shit. Do you want that again? You want your hot shittery back? Because you were born with it. And it looks so fine on a woman. It looks so fine and so pretty and so deliriously delicious. And it feels like such a relief. But we're going to have a problem, you and I. And this is the problem. I'm going to make you an offer. I'm going to say, if you do this thing, you're going to get that enthusiasm. You're going to get that joy. You're going to get that fun. And when I make you this offer, your pussy is going to say, yay! Yay! But your ego is going to say, oh, no, you don't. Nice girls don't behave that way. That is not appropriate. And you will not do that. You will sit in your chair and you will not do that. Anything but that. And your pussy will go, please, pretty. And you're going to have a struggle between your ego and your pussy and your ego and your pussy. And until today, guess what part of you has always won? Your ego. Your ego is so used to having a full ego takeover. Don't wear that. It's too much. Don't flirt. Too much. Don't go for that. Too greedy. Don't be that way. Too outrageous. But today, we're going to flip that switch.